Welcome back to the Wandering Star Farmhouse. My name is Jeanette, and this is our second week of the Pantry Challenge, where we are trying to cook mostly from our pantry to use up our stores that we produced on our homestead last year and to save money and cook from scratch. And so in this video, I'm going to be showing you some of the things that we've been eating this week from our pantries. Now, last night I brought out the sourdough starter and it's been in the fridge for a little bit, but I got some dough mixed up and I am shaping those breads this morning so that we can have those with our dinner. For dinner tonight, I'm going to be using this soup base that I canned up this summer with things from our garden, and this is spicy tomato and black bean soup. So if I had multiple jars of it, probably what I would do is just puree one whole jar. But since I don't, I'm going to start with a jar of just black beans and then some tomato sauce that I have left over, a little bit of water, and I'm going to puree those together. And that just helps the soup to have a little more body to it. Ideally, I would probably just use 2 jars of this soup to feed my family. But when I canned this up, it was kind of experimental. I was trying to adapt a recipe that my family likes into a canning recipe. And I actually just produced 2 jars of it. And one I did one way and one I did another way. And one of those jars actually exploded in the canner. And so I only have 1 jar. And then I added the frozen corn. And I'm rinsing out my jars with just a little bit of water and adding that to the soup because I want to use up all the goodness that's in these jars. Now, I'm going to add this roasted poblano pepper that Jeremy had roasted because in hindsight, the jalapenos that I grew this summer in my garden were not very spicy at all. And so I've been noticing that with like my salsas and some of my pepper jelly and some of my other recipes, they have not been very spicy. So I'm going to add this because I had this randomly in the fridge, but I was still struggling to get the skins off. So I gave it a little bit more of a blowtorch. Basically, this soup is a little bit of onion, green pepper, jalapeno pepper, chopped tomatoes, black beans, and broth. And then, like I say, the corn, which I really love the fresh pop that the corn adds to it. After sitting all day, my sourdough is ready to go into the oven. So I have 2 of these loaves that we're going to cook up. So we'll eat one of these for dinner and save one of them for tomorrow. And I bake them in the oven on a pizza stone and always add in a little bit of steam to help with it rise. Now you see we didn't get a shockingly large rise on this. I think it's because my sourdough starter has just been hanging out in the fridge for a month. I've fed it a couple times this week, so we're going to get it back to the point where we're going to get some really impressive rises in the future, but this is definitely delicious, tasty bread regardless. I did do about half whole wheat flour. That is one of my goals for this challenge, is to increase the amount of whole wheat that I'm using in our home baked goods. So that actually can also affect the rise that you get out of it as well. But there we go, spicy tomato and black bean soup with homemade sourdough bread. Okay, I'm in the garage checking on my sweet potatoes. They are surviving well, and I haven't had any mice find them in the garage yet, which does happen sometimes. I want to actually get some of these canned up, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Anyways, and these funky shapes are just what you get when you homegrow vegetables. They're not always the conveniently peelable shaped sweet potatoes that come from the grocery store. But I'm super happy with my sweet potato harvest this year. If you remember, I worked really hard to get some nice sweet potatoes that didn't just get totally eaten up in the ground before I picked them. So I grew them in raised beds this year in order to keep moles and voles from chewing them up, which was happening in the last couple of years. So I'm just going to chop up these sweet potatoes and I am going to steam them. Tonight we are making stuffed shells with the sweet potatoes, and I really like this recipe because My kids like to whine a lot about sweet potatoes. I don't know why. They say they're too sweet, which what kid says that food is too sweet? That's what my kids say about sweet potatoes. So I like these ones because we add the steamed sweet potatoes into this ricotta cheese filling that goes inside these stuffed shells. And then it's all kind of the same texture, kind of creamy, and the flavor just blends in. And so my kids actually really like these stuffed shells. So I add 16 ounces of ricotta cheese, about a quarter cup of grated fresh Parmesan, maybe a half a cup of mozzarella cheese. And I always like to add an egg too. This is how I do my filling for lasagna too. I feel like adding the egg to it helps to make the filling set up a little bit more. I'm going to steam up some greens to add as well to this filling. Same thing when I have the greens in with something where it doesn't alter the texture at all. Like my kids really do fine with it. I'll add that in with the steamed sweet potatoes, mix it into the filling, and then start stuffing these jumbo pasta shells using a jar of home canned tomato sauce that I'm going to put a little bit on the bottom and then pour over the top of these when they're all packed in their baking dish as well. These shells just are really creamy and delicious, and using our homegrown tomato sauce and homegrown sweet potatoes. We still have a bunch of those strawberries that we got last week, so we're eating through those and enjoying them. All right, the sourdough officially looks like it has woken up. So we'll make some more sourdough bread. I'm just doing this on the same night as the pasta before bed so that in the morning it'll be ready to work with. Next morning I wake up and get ready to put that into pans to proof for the day. This bread that I'm making today is some sandwich loaves, and same thing here. I have done somewhere between a third to half whole wheat flour, and I'll get these just into my loaf pans to rise for the day, and they'll be ready to cook by the end of the day. It's good to always score bread and give it a place for the steam to escape, and that allows the bread to rise just a little bit more than if you didn't score it. And those cooked up really nicely. Tonight for dinner, I went to my freezer and pulled out this bag of frozen tomatoes from the summertime. Sometimes when things get overwhelming, I just throw it in the freezer. We'll deal with it later. Now look how nice this sourdough bread turned out. Nice and soft and squishy. So I'm going to use these tomatoes to make up some fresh cream of tomato soup, starting with just a little bit of butter and some diced onions. And I'll just saute that for a little bit before adding in these tomatoes. I'm going to peel the skins off under warm water and cut out some of the bad spots. I think that's also why I threw these in the freezer. I was annoyed at this point in the summer that the tomatoes were all coming out with a little bit of splitting and that kind of thing. And so I didn't want to deal with it at that point in time. I said, I'll just throw these in the freezer and I'll deal with them later. So now in the middle of Zen winter, I have the patience to cut out the bad spots out of the tomatoes, and we'll use these tomatoes to make a delicious homemade tomato soup. So then I will just puree these tomatoes and onions up into the soup and add a little bit of salt and then add in the cream. Tomato soup like this, my family typically prefers just cup portions as opposed to bowl-sized portions. And I am using some of the delicious homemade sourdough bread to make some cheesy toast to go with our cream of tomato soup. And that is our delicious dinner for tonight. Okay. Sometimes you just got to wonder, like, what is in the fridge? So I had something. It was actually white on top. You can see there's a little bit of white specks on here because it had a whole fat cap on it. I actually thought it was some kind of creamed soup. And I removed the fat cap, and there still was a layer of gelatin on top, but then I could see it was actually split pea and ham soup left over from after our Christmas ham. Because, like I mentioned before, the turkeys survived Christmas, so Jeremy bought ham instead. I'm gonna warm this split pea soup up for dinner and make some pumpkin muffins to eat along with it. I have this pumpkin muffin recipe that I really like, and I searched around to find a pumpkin muffin recipe that used actually like the whole can of pumpkin, or in my case, 2 cups of pumpkin. Because a lot of recipes for pumpkin things, they'll have like 2 tablespoons of pumpkin or 4 tablespoons of pumpkin, a 1/4 cup. And I'm like, that's great. I need to use up a lot more pumpkin than that. So I really like this one. It uses a whole can or 2 cups of pumpkin, and it makes a double batch. But today, just like last week, I'm actually not going to make individual muffins. I'm going to make giant muffins or pie muffins. It just simplifies the process for me, lets me crank it out quicker than if I was trying to make individual muffins, and then I don't have to buy the muffin papers either. And then, like the breads, I'll have one that we'll eat with dinner tonight and one that we can save for breakfast or snacks for tomorrow. I am almost through all the pumpkin that I froze last year, you can see, but I have a bunch of pumpkins from this year that I still haven't processed. So that's going to be part of what I need to do this month, is finally get these processed and put into the freezer. So here's our dinner for tonight with a little bit of that split pea soup, pumpkin muffin, and a fresh salad. It's Friday night and Jeremy brought us home leftover pizza from work. So I get a break for dinner tonight. Today is Saturday, and my son found this package of crumbled up graham crackers in the pantry, and we decided to turn that into a graham cracker pie crust. These strawberries that we got last week are starting to turn, so we got to just finish the rest of them up today. So we are going to make a strawberry pie, and then if I have any strawberries left over, I'm going to just maybe freeze up the rest of those, I think. So for the strawberry pie, I am just getting the tops off and getting a cup of strawberries ready that I'm going to add the sugar to and some cornstarch, or you could add arrowroot starch or whatever. And then I'm going to puree that all together and cook that up until it thickens into the glacé. It's a glacé pie. Have I mentioned I really couldn't live without my immersion blender? I think that an immersion blender is a really valuable, necessary part of a scratch kitchen. If you're going to be cooking from scratch a lot, immersion blender, you really need one in your kitchen. All right, the pie crust has been baked and it is all ready and waiting for the strawberries. So once I get this filling boiling, I'm going to let it boil for 2 minutes, and I'm going to start arranging strawberries. I could wait and pour a little bit of the glacé on the pie crust first and then put the strawberries on top, but I didn't feel like waiting. Thank you so much for joining me in the video today. If you like this kind of content, homesteading, cooking from scratch, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. My next video I have lined up is a video all about our new wood-burning cook stove. And I'm really excited to share that video with you. We didn't do a lot of cooking on it this week because we kind of had a warmer week. And so we didn't fire it up as often. We're also acquiring some more firewood. So this week we didn't use that wood stove quite as much, but I want to show you how we've been using that wood stove in the first month of owning it. Talk a little bit about the cost of it and the installation process. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next video.